She thought she had found the love of her life, but the man she trusted was planning to marry her to someone else, his own father. What would you do if the person you loved lied to you in the worst way possible? Watch carefully, because this story may save a life, or at least teach you the truth before saying I do. Every morning before the sun fully rose, Mama Carol would already be awake. Her hands were rough from years of hard work, and her back bent slightly from carrying burdens life never apologized for. She was a widow who survived by frying akara at the roadside. That small wooden table and hot frying pan were all she had left after her husband died and left her with only one child, Sandra. Sandra was different. She was young, beautiful, and calm. Her smile attracted customers more than the smell of the akara. While other girls slept late, Sandra stood beside her mother every morning, greeting people politely. "Good morning, Auntie. Your akara is ready," she would say, smiling. One morning, a black car slowed down near their stand. The driver rolled down his window. He was young, neat, and confident. "Madam, give me akara," he said. Mama Caro smiled quickly and served him. But the young man's eyes were not on the food. They were on Sandra. "What is your name?" he asked gently. "Sandra," she replied, shyly. "My name is Kelvin," he said with a smile before driving away. From that day, Kelvin began to appear often. Sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the evening. He bought akara even when he didn't need it. He greeted Mama Caro respectfully and always smiled at Sandra. One day, he brought money. "Madam, please take this. Use it to support your business," he said. Mama Caro was shocked. "God will bless you, my son." Slowly, Kelvin became family. He paid small bills. He fixed little problems. He made Sandra feel seen. And before Sandra knew it, she had given her heart to a man who already had another plan waiting in silence. Far away from the roadside where akara oil burned every morning, there stood a very big house. It was quiet. Too quiet for a house filled with wealth. Inside that house lived Douglas, a rich man known across many African cities. He owned companies, lands, and offices, yet his life felt empty. His legs were crippled after an accident many years ago, and since then, he moved only with a wheelchair. His wife had died 10 years ago, leaving him with 2 sons, Kelvin and Victor. Kelvin was the first son. Serious, calm, and always thinking like a businessman. He managed one of his father's companies and handled meetings, papers, and contracts. People respected him. Victor was different. He loved music more than boardrooms. Even with all his father's money, Victor chose stages, studios, and late-night rehearsals. But one thing both sons shared was love for their father. Douglas had a house help who cooked, cleaned, and gave him his drugs every day. But at night, when everywhere was quiet, loneliness spoke louder than pain. One evening, Douglas called his sons. "My sons," he said slowly, "I am tired of this empty house. I need a wife. Someone young, caring, someone who will stay with me." Victor shook his head. "Papa, this is not right. You are old. People will talk. It will bring trouble." But Kelvin did not argue. He stayed quiet, thinking. Douglas looked at him. "Kelvin, what do you think?" Kelvin finally spoke. "Papa, if you want a wife, I will help you." Victor turned sharply. "Help him do what?" "Ruin someone's life." Kelvin stood up calmly. "I already know someone good." That night, while Douglas slept with hope in his heart, Kelvin sat alone in his room and picked up his phone. On the screen was Sandra's smiling face. And Kelvin whispered to himself, "You will be perfect." Kelvin changed after that night. He started visiting Sandra more often. He called her early in the morning and late at night. He sent her sweet messages that made her heart beat fast. You are the woman I want to marry, he told her one evening. Sandra covered her face and smiled. No man had ever spoken to her like that. Kelvin met Mama Caro properly. He greeted her with respect and spoke like a responsible man. Mama, I love your daughter. I want to marry her, he said. Mama Caro felt tears in her eyes. God has finally remembered us, she whispered. Preparations started slowly. Kelvin paid bride price discussions. He bought clothes. He handled everything like a man deeply in love. But behind his smiles, Kelvin was carrying a secret too heavy for his heart. Sometimes, when Sandra talked about their future, Kelvin became quiet. What is wrong? She asked once. Nothing, he replied quickly. I just want everything to be perfect. Meanwhile, Douglas kept asking, when will you bring the girl? Kelvin would answer, very soon, Papa. Victor warned him. Kelvin, this is evil. Tell the girl the truth. Kelvin looked away. If I tell her, she will run. Papa will die lonely. Sandra dreamed of a happy home, children, and love. She did not know she was not preparing for marriage. She was being prepared for sacrifice. The wedding day arrived like a festival. Music filled the air. Neighbors gathered. Mama Caro wore her best wrapper, smiling as if all her suffering had finally ended. Sandra sat inside, dressed beautifully, her heart full of joy and fear. She waited for Kelvin. Minutes passed. Then hours. Suddenly, Kelvin called her phone. Sandra, he said in a rushed voice, something terrible has happened. What is it? She asked, panic rising. I have an emergency meeting outside the country. I have to leave immediately. My father will stand in for me. I will be back in 2 days. Sandra froze. Kelvin, today is our wedding. I know, he said softly. Trust me. Please. Before she could speak again, the call ended. Soon, a crippled old man was wheeled forward. People whispered. Is this the groom? Look at the kind of man she is marrying. A young girl with an old crippled man. Sandra's legs shook. Her eyes searched for Kelvin, but he was gone. The elder spoke. The marriage rites were completed. By the time Sandra realized the truth, her fate had already been sealed. That night, Sandra followed Douglas to his house. The big gate opened slowly, and the silence inside the compound frightened her. This was not the home she imagined. This was not the life Kelvin promised her. Douglas looked at her with gentle eyes. My wife, you are now home, he said. Sandra could not answer. Her throat was dry. When night came and the lights were turned off, Douglas tried to move closer to her on the bed. His hands shook as he reached out. Sandra burst into tears. Please, please don't touch me, she cried. Douglas was shocked. Why are you crying? I was deceived, she sobbed. I thought I was marrying your son. Douglas turned his face away. He already knew the truth, but hearing it from her mouth made his heart heavy. From that night on, Sandra cried every day. She locked herself in the room. She refused food. Whenever Douglas tried to speak to her, she trembled with fear. After 2 days passed, Sandra waited for Kelvin. He did not come. 3 days passed. Still nothing. She ran to her mother's house and fell on the ground, crying. Mama, I am finished, she said. They tricked me. Mama Caro screamed and tore her wrapper. But what could a poor woman do against rich people? That evening, Douglas sent a message. If you want to leave this marriage, return every money spent. Mama Caro looked at the empty room, the frying pan, and the akara table. They had nothing to return. And Sandra realized she was trapped. Months passed after the wedding day when Sandra was forced to live with Douglas. She remained quiet, bitter, and afraid. Every night she cried, her mind haunted by the betrayal that Kelvin had planned for his father. Douglas tried to be kind, giving her clothes, money, and gentle words. But it did not matter. Her heart belonged to the young man she thought she loved, Kelvin, and he had disappeared the day after the wedding. Then, one bright morning, the neighborhood stirred with excitement and gossip. A sleek black car arrived at the compound. Out stepped Kelvin, looking as confident as ever. But he was not alone. By his side was a beautiful young woman, dressed in an elegant gown, holding herself like a queen. Sandra's eyes widened. Her heart froze. Kelvin approached the house slowly, smiling, while Douglas looked on with quiet approval. "My father," Kelvin said politely. "I have returned with my wife." Sandra felt the word tilt. She could barely breathe. The man who had promised her love, who had made her believe in a future together, had brought another woman, not just anyone, but his new wife, into the house she was trapped in. The neighbors whispered from outside. "Did you see? That young girl married the crippled man, and now the real groom comes with another woman." Sandra fell to the floor, tears streaming. The betrayal was complete. Kelvin smiled at her politely but with no warmth. "Everything is as it should be. You have a home now, and my father will care for you." But Sandra's heart could not be comforted. She realized fully how cruelly she had been deceived. The man she loved had used her for his father and then replaced the illusion of love with another woman for himself. If this story touched you and you need part 2, please do well to subscribe and comment part 2.